Hey, I see a couple people here. Trying to see if I can actually see who's here. Okay, let me talk about something that I found interesting today in our class. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was the fact that having clarity around what it is that you, and I think I talked about that one last time. What was interesting today in class? I think today what was interesting was we talked about learning styles. And I think a lot of times when it comes to learning styles, we don't understand that we have, each one of us has sort of like a unique way of processing information and learning information. So what happens is we kind of study in a way that maybe other people study, or we try to figure things out on our own. And we don't actually realize that we've been born with an innate way to kind of learn and absorb information. And so if you don't know your specific learning style, what can happen is you could be spending a lot more time studying and learning information um, with more hard work and getting poor results. So what you want to do is you really want to understand your specific learning style. And if you understand it, what will happen is you'll be able to take the information that you get and the information that you are taught, and it may not even be at school, it may be in the workforce or whatever, but when you're given this information, you understand the whole concept of how you individually function. And so when you can take that information and you can process it in a way that works for you, you end up spending a lot less time learning and studying and trying to make sense of that information, because it's being taught to you in a way that works with your individual learning style. So one of the things that you can start doing is, when you figure out your learning style, is to start applying that in all different areas of your life. So for example, if you have to have a conversation with somebody, and the individual, let's say you have a strong visual learning style, and the individual is they like to talk a lot, for example. So it may not work well for you because it's hard for you to remember everything the person is saying. But what you can do is you can actually take that information and you can create an image in your mind about what they're referring to. So that's really good, because that'll help you develop a better memory, because you're using your specific learning style. And when you do that, you'll start to retain information and remember information, because you're using the predominant method of learning specifically for you. So one of the things I found to be really, really cool is, and I'm just telling you this because I'm a visual learner, is what I do is when I learn, I actually start to create, or if I'm learning a new concept, I try to create flowcharts. So if something happens, then what's the result of that? And then I create a little diagram showing how this thing relates to something else. And then another thing I can do is I can also take maybe some theory or some concepts, and I can create a little story about this information and create the story in my mind. And so when I have to remember something, I start to think of that story. And then when I start thinking of that story, I can actually see the characters in my mind. And then it starts to make a lot of sense for me as well. So that's an example of your specific learning style. And so that's pretty good. Now, if you're able to get good at it, you'll start to notice that your effort and your energy start to go down and your results go up. So that's one of the key components about using the right learning style. Another thing we talked about today was, and it's really interesting because as I teach this material, I actually start to learn it at a very deeper level. And one of the things that I realized is that a lot of us we do things for intellectual reasons, for logical reasons. So we find a job or a career that can pay us a lot of money, for example, or there's a lot of security behind it. And these are all logical reasons to find a career. But what is, I think, the most valuable thing you can do is to align the logical side of things also with the emotion behind it. So, if a lot of people end up being accountants, for example, and there's nothing wrong with being an accountant, but when I ask them, well, why do you want to become an accountant? Usually the response is because it's a very secure position and there's always a need for accountants. So that makes sense when you look at it from a logical standpoint. But then what happens when you have, when you're at work and you really dislike working with numbers, or you don't like working with spreadsheets and things like that? What's going to happen? Definitely there's a demand for what you do, but you're not really feeling passionate and fulfilled about it. So now the head and the heart, they're not working together. And usually when the head and the heart aren't working together, it's usually the heart that wins out. So one of the things we've always been taught academically is, do things with a logical perspective. And I agree with that. I think it's important. But I also think that we're emotional creatures. And I think we need to understand that there's also a big emotional concept and an emotional driver for us. And I think that we need to pay attention to both. And sometimes you love what you do, but there's not enough logical benefit behind it too. So maybe you can turn that thing into a hobby or something like that. But the reality is that if you have them both aligned, then there's a better chance for you to become successful. So let's say you become an accountant, not only is there security behind it, but you actually love the spreadsheets, you actually love working with figures. And now you've combined your love for business and you've taken your love of spreadsheets and numbers, and you've now combined it with the security level for it. So now you have a very, very good chance of being successful because you have the security of having a job, and at the same time you enjoy it. And when you have both working together, you have a very, very good chance of being successful. So that's something that I think we're missing out a little bit on. I think we're talking more about, the logical reasons why people do things, but I think it also has to be, and the emotional side also has to be in play as well. So I see a few people on here. I don't see any questions, so if you want to ask me some questions, feel free. And I'm actually just making this up as I go. So I'm not sure if I'm going to publish this one, but I am going to just, like I said, I'm just testing a few things out. New camera, so I wanted to see how the camera works. I got a new microphone, so I think the sound quality was not giving us trouble today in class. So I think that's good. Let's see if there's anything else that I should discuss. I think one key component that is important to address is that in one of my classes, we had some students who were really struggling with time. And I think when you're struggling with time, the reason why people struggle with time, in my opinion, is because I don't think we have an accurate definition, or I shouldn't say accurate, but I don't think we have a good definition of what time management is. So I think the best definition of time management is not the traditional one, which is allocating time, dividing up the time that you have. So dividing up your 24 hours to get stuff done. I don't think that's the best definition. I think the best definition is, or a better definition is, to actually understand that even if you've divided that time, if you don't have the energy or the passion to get stuff done, you're probably not going to do it. And so, especially with today's technology and instant gratification, social media and Netflix and things like that, right? Like, you can just easily get distracted. So I think one of the things that you want to do is you want to understand that you want to anticipate where your time is going to be going during the week. But at the same time, you also want to make sure you have the right amount of energy levels to make sure you get things done. Because even if you know you got to get something done, but you're exhausted and you're tired, it's not going to work. So you want to pick up those energy levels. Another thing, which is quite ironic because my energy is a little bit low today, but another thing you also want to do is understand that you're not going to be doing things, you shouldn't be doing things that you're unsure are going to lead to success, right? So you shouldn't be doing things that that you're unsure of, and spending a lot of time doing things that you're unsure of. I think what you want to do is you want to start making sure that the things you're going to be doing are eventually going to lead to success. But when you figure out that those things are going to lead to success, and then you combine that with high levels of energy and high levels of desire and motivation, then you have a very good chance of getting things done. So this is why you see a lot of times in students who have either been kicked out of school or they've had some bad experiences and they come to school and they're ready to sort of change their, change the career path. You can see that they're very, very motivated because they've already had a taste of how bad things can be. So now the energy levels are a lot higher. And so because of that, then they're now able to take that energy and do what works, and they combine them together and it looks like magic. So that's another tip I think I can share with you. Okay, so I've been on for about 11 minutes, 12 minutes, or 11:30 now. I see a few people on. Do you guys have any questions for me at all? Unfortunately, I can't tell who you are, but if you have any questions or if you just want to say hi, then that's cool too. If not, then that's okay. Like I said, I'm just testing this out today, but I'm happy to respond to any questions that you may have. Let's see here, unless I'm not seeing any questions. Emil, hey, the sound and the video works well. That's awesome. Emil, are you in one of my classes? I'm sorry, I have a lot of students, so I'm not too sure. I think you may have been in one of my classes last term too, because your name does sound familiar. So just let me know if you're in one of my classes. In fact, I think you were in my semester last class. So let me know from today. Okay, good to know. So how did class go today? What were some of the things that you got out of today's class? I'd like to know. And anybody else, if you want to just say hello, that's good. Again, we're just testing this out. Oh, that's right. You send me a message because you're moving. Okay. So is there anything, I'm assuming that you went through the slides and all that, and did you want me to answer anything, or do you want me to respond to anything? So Emil, let me know. And then Fatima says, class was really interesting today. Could help me think of my future better. Yeah, so I think it's important, Fatima, that we always have a long-term view in whatever it is that we do. So I think what happens is, we think of getting tasks completed and getting tasks done. But I think if we have, a long-term view in terms of why it is that we're doing certain things, then the tasks we do today, we have a better chance of doing well at them. But at the same time, we know how they're going to benefit us in the future. So if we don't actually predict or we don't anticipate what our life is going to look like, or I think predict is a better word, if we don't predict what our life is going to look like, then we're not clear on why the actions we're taking today, and we're not clear on how they can benefit us. So very, very important to always think long-term, I think, especially when it comes to your education and your career and things like that. Because if you're not thinking like that, then you get very, very susceptible to going off track because you're not really clear on the thing that you really want to do. So it's worth taking the time and energy to be able to do that. And this is why it's also important. Sometimes, sometimes students take a year off and all they do is just listen to what they want to do and maybe they reflect and things like that. And I actually don't think it's a bad idea because when you finally do come back to school, you're more driven and motivated to do the things that you want to do. Okay, so hopefully you I think you liked that activity, which I'm glad. But what did you learn about what your future holds for you, Fatima? It's interesting to know what your future holds for you, what you would like it to hold for you, I should say. Emil, sorry, Emily, sorry, Emily. Sorry. Emily, with the French spelling. I just did the learning quiz, which was interesting. I'm very visual and hands-on. Yeah. When you do this learning styles inventory, it's really interesting. And so next class, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how you can use your learning styles to help you to perform better in your classes. And if you're visual, there's a lot of ways that'll help me, and I can share them with you. If you're verbal, then I'm sure some of the classmates can teach you how to use your verbal learning styles as well. So that's good. And I'm glad you guys are getting some value from these classes. So that's good. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, so I don't have any more questions or anything like that. And again, this is just kind of testing everything out. And I really like this camera. Like, I'm looking at it and I'm just like, wow, it's a lot brighter, a lot sharper. So what do you guys think? Do you think I should just stay with this camera? I know the angle is a bit weird, but I actually don't mind it too much. Okay, so Fatima, my future goal is to fulfill my passion in medicine. And the motivation assignment and goals assignment are really helping me to know where I want to be by what age and important details. Yeah, so that's the reason we're doing all these things, because when you're working on these assignments, what you're really doing is you're getting more and more clear on what you want. And if you're not clear on what you want, again, you could easily get distracted, and you could go down a path, and then years or months or years later, you could figure out, oh my God, what am I doing here? I don't want to be here. But when you really reflect and think about what it is that you want to do and what needs to happen in your life, and the milestones you need to sort of accomplish along the way, what happens is you start to get more clarity. And with that clarity, you end up learning one of the most powerful things you can learn, and that is the ability to say no to things that are getting in your way. And you'll notice that there's a lot of individuals who are very smart and very intelligent, but because they don't say no, they sometimes go down a path that doesn't work. And maybe it's the networks that they're in, the friends that they have, they're just not good at saying no to those things, and then they end up going down a path which isn't good for them. So that's why we're doing these assignments. And then when you know, and Fatima, just keep on going with your question, when you know what it is that you want and you're clear on it, then it makes a big difference when you're in the classroom. Because when you're in the classroom, you know why you're there. You know why you got to pay attention. You understand why you actually have to learn this material. And a lot of times people don't know that, or they look at class as a bit of a pain in the butt. And so when that happens, you can't get the most out of it. But when you're clear in your vision and what you want to do, you tend to get a lot more out of the class time as well. So this is why we're doing it. Emily, I have ADHD, so focusing is difficult. So hands-on videos helps a lot. Yeah, see, so Emily, that's so good to know. Once you understand that, now you can take your learnings and your ability to, I guess, process information, you can take it to the next level. Because now you're able to use your specific style of learning to help you absorb that information. And to be honest, I don't know, I'm not an ADHD specialist, but I do know that I do get distracted a lot. And so sometimes it's okay to get distracted a little bit, as long as you can kind of come back to the things that you need to do. I don't know if you were in my class, Emily, but today we talked about superheroes, and I talked about Aquaman and stuff like that. So that was a bit of a distraction, but it's actually a fun distraction, so we can take a little bit of a mental break and then come back. And then hopefully we could engage and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Good, I'm glad you like the camera. So yeah, I think I'm gonna keep on using this camera and just keep on going from there. Good. Let's see if there's anything else. Do you guys want to ask me anything else? Any concepts in class? You don't even have to talk about class stuff. Just anything that you wanted to discuss, or anything that you wanted to ask me. And also, do you also recommend that I talk about certain concepts that can help you? Is there any area that I could help you with during the class? Emily says, I find online difficult because it's hard to focus. Yeah, it is hard to focus, Emily, but I think what you can do, though, is you can always, you can always kind of like try to summarize things in your mind as often as you can. So when the concept is being taught, try best to summarize it and try to engage a lot with the material as you're being taught. So if you can engage with the material, then you end up absorbing it a lot better. So whenever I teach, there's a chat box, right? So what you can always do is you can just start chatting in questions and things like that, and that might help you. And math class. Yeah, so you gotta teach yourself. Yeah, so everybody's kind of doing it differently. But if you can, try to get engaged. And when you're doing math questions, maybe you can write down all the things that you don't understand, and then what you can do is make an appointment to see your instructor, and then when you have seen your instructor, you can have some dialogue with them. But like I said, try to get engaged with the material as much as you can. And I think when you get engaged with it, you end up having a lot more success. So like I said, ask questions. Maybe write down a few math questions that you don't get, and then try to work through it. And if you don't get it, then go speak to your instructor, and maybe you guys can work on it together. That might be a good way to do it. Ria, well, I'm in the effective learning class. Hi, Ria. The question or the assignments you gave today. Okay, Ria, go for it. What's your question? So I'll just wait for you to respond. Can't see it on Blackboard. You said you get 40 hours to do it. Have you just not posted it? I think, Ria, what section are you in? Let me know the section. So it's up for section 13. Unless I'm done with section 15. So yeah, that's it. You're probably in section 15, Ria. So you're right. Let me just get that done right now. Goal setting. And just confirm with me that you've got it. Then I'll tell you it's up. And I'll give people extra time to do it as well. So I'm gonna give you 48 hours to do it. And what time is it now? Till 6 p.m. That's done. Thanks for letting me know. I didn't realize. Okay, it should be done, Ria. Just take a look and make sure it's all good. Okay. Ria, just confirm that with me. And yeah, I've given you 48 hours, and I gave you till 6 p.m. on Friday. Okay, perfect. So that's up. Okay, good. All right. Is there anything else anybody wants to ask me? Yeah, no problem, Ria. Am I pronouncing your name okay, Ria? Okay, good. Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Anything else anybody wants to ask? Okay. Oh, Uchoko. Okay. I thought the first thing we did in class today was the right way to learn against how we're taught to learn. I think it was a response to Jacqueline's question. I find it really helpful. Can you explain to me what you're referring to? It's hard to command. Yeah. So sorry, Rhea. So Uchuko. Can you explain to me what you're referring to? Because I'm having a bit of trouble here. Okay, I thought the first thing you did in class today was prevent me to learn. So what was, explain what that was to me, because I forgot. And I don't know what section you were in. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. How we put it backwards. We put the step one. Yeah, so step one. So we switched step one and step two around. I think that's what you're thinking. Yeah. No, I'm glad that helped. Put in there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're on the right page here. Yeah. So I think that's really, it's interesting because that's what a lot of really intelligent and high performing students do. They just get it intuitively. They're like, why would I do all the work if I don't know how the exam's going to be? So I never, like I said, I'm not like that. It took me a long time. but fortunately, I really took the time to learn and study a lot of people who were doing well, and because of that, I was able to kind of figure that little technique out. And so, yeah, so hopefully it's going to help you as well. Okay, that's good. Anything else you guys wanted to ask? Anything else? Okay, so if there's nothing else, then let's call it a day. And yeah, and then yeah, so let's call it a day. And then what we can do is we can figure it out. And once I know for sure how this whole thing works, and maybe I'll stick with this camera, what I'll do is I'll set a definite uh, I'll set a definite time for me to go on YouTube Live, and then you can ask me some questions and things like that. Okay, great. Okay, so if that's it, then let's call it a day. And so for my students in my Monday and Wednesday class, hope you have a good weekend. If not, sorry, if you're not in that class in Monday, Wednesday, then I'll see you guys tomorrow for your Thursday class. Okay, take care, all the best, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye-bye. You too, have a good weekend.